Good evening. Welcome to our regular scheduled meeting Monday, November the 6th. We're so glad to have everyone here tonight. At this time, I will ask Vice Chair Mike Barbie to lead us in invocation and pledge of allegiance. Vice Chair.
Please guide and direct us to do your will, and that we may not cause hardships for our citizens. Please help the people of Israel and overseas that peace will come soon. Please bless our military, our police, first responders, firemen, and all county employees. We thank you for the many blessings that you have given us and for your Son. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chairman. At this time, I would seek a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So move.
Motion, second. Commissioner Hatley, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion carries. Thank you very much. First item we have is public comment, and Miss Heather Carlson. If you would, ma'am, just step right up.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Okay, I forgot my glasses, so please work with me here. I tried to type it big. I just wanted to publicly say why I applied to be possibly a member of the Health Department Board. The first reason being when I attended some of the health board meetings in the past, I was amazed with how much data is reviewed and analyzed in those meetings. They use all of the data presented to make all of the decisions. With having over 16 years of experience in data science analytics, I truly felt that my area of expertise could provide assistance to this board to ensure that all data is understood in its entirety. Second reason I felt obligated to apply is I'm a mom of 3 teenagers here in Stanley County, and I think we can all agree that our children are living and growing up in a different time that we did. And anything I can do to ensure that my kids enter adulthood in a safe and healthy community, I'm gonna do. So thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to explain why I put in an application, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson. We appreciate it. That's the only one that I had to sign up for public comment, or is there anyone else out there that would like to speak? Okay, thank you very much. All right, first item is consolidated Human Services Board appointments, and our presenter is County Manager Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Here this evening to for an item that was tabled at your last meeting, I think to give the board more time to get applications in for consideration with this board. There are 5 members of the board that have whose terms are expiring that have asked to be reappointed and were recommended by the Health and Human Services Board. There are 3 other members that their terms are either expiring or they've resigned from the meeting. So there's actually a total of 8 appointments that are available this evening. There's a consumer member, a veterinarian member, and a social worker member that you would need to appoint a veterinarian. You'd need to appoint a social worker. Consumer's a little more broad because a lot of us are consumers of public health. Even a lot of us eat at restaurants where our environmental health services are, wells and septics, and obviously folks who truly use the public health clinic or WIC or any of those services. So, but then there are also the 4 general public members as well. So, Anyway, I'll stop here. The board has several applications to consider in your packet, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, sir. Any questions for County Manager Lucas?
Yeah, just, I don't know if I called it, but of the, Board of Health has recommended 5 of those to have made for return.
Correct.
And what are the 3,
There's three that,
and which one's,
the,
one's the veterinarian?
the three that either resigned or didn't
Correct.
want to be reappointed.
Correct.
One was general public, one was veterinarian, and one was a consumer.
I'd like to go ahead and make a nomination
Are you doing the
for consumer.
consumer? Okay.
I'd like to nominate Heather Carlson for the consumer role. She's had her name in there for at least a year that I know of. She's very active in the community, and she would be quite an asset with her data analytics. And she has also attended meetings.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right. Any other nominations for
I'd
that?
like to nominate Jocelyn Torres to be on the board.
We are. He's just his nominating for the consumer. All right, any more nominations for the consumer?
I'd like to nominate Sina Kuistani, consumer.
All right, are you doing under the 5 general public? Or are you doing under the one of the 3?
So you've got 8 total. You'll need a veterinarian, a social worker, a consumer, and then the 5 general public. And it's conceivable that somebody could be a consumer, but could also, if they didn't get in on the consumer side, they could get in on they definitely could get in on the general public side. Anyone could be a general public. I mean, if we already have a doctor on the board in the doctor role, but another doctor could be appointed into one of the general public positions. That's not an issue. So
I think there could be some confusion here.
so I
Because
don't-
it's not automatic that the 5 people are coming back, so you have a lot of general public
Correct, yeah,
things. So we either got to go one at each time,
yeah,
or
correct.
perhaps,
I mean, I don't mind putting it on there, but, I mean, and you could, if that one doesn't get
If he doesn't
elected
get
now,
it here,
can
you
bring
could
it back
always
up
bring it back up at one of the
for
other
the
5, or all 5.
I just want to make sure we all know we're voting for the,
At this
This-
point,
this
this is
specific.
consumer. That's
Okay.
my understanding, is you're only nominating for consumer at this point.
this consumer one that is currently open.
Yeah,
That'll be open,
the
okay.
individual had resigned, so this consumer space is currently open. And it's my understanding that Commissioner Crump's nomination was for that consumer spot. And that your nomination was for a consumer spot.
He's a psychologist, so consumer spot.
We have I think we have a psychologist on the board, but he could fill a general public spot.
So I can pick another one.
I mean, you can leave it on this one, or you can pick another one. You wanna leave it? Yeah, right now, we are voting on the consumer.
I'm gonna leave it.
Leave it?
Scott, I'm gonna leave
Okay, son. What was the first name?
it. Sina.
Cena. Okay, any other for the consumer? All right, ready to vote? Everybody has a vote, 1 vote each, right?
Correct,
All right.
yeah.
Everyone for Heather Carlson, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. All right. Everyone for Jocelyn Torres, raise your hand. 1. And for Kuistani. 3-3. All right. So Ms. Carlson has 3, Kuistani has 3, and Torres has 1. So we need to vote again.
Correct.
I mean,
You would need to, since you're doing them one by one,
Yeah.
I think you need to vote on this one, and then we can
Yeah.
do one of the other ones.
okay, all right. So Ms. Torres, we'll scratch her on this time. All right, everyone for Ms. Carlson. 1, 2, 3. For Kuistani. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Kuistani is on the first one. Are you getting all this? All right. All right, now,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
I'd like to nominate Dr. Jim Link to fill the veterinarian position.
All right, thanks, sir. Anyone else for the veterinarian position? Okay. All right, all those in favor of Mr. Link, raise your hand, please. 7-0. All right, let's see. Okay, now we have social worker.
Nominate Beth Thomas.
Beth Thomas. All right, anyone else for social worker?
Clarification for that social worker nomination, this needs to be someone who's actively working as a social worker?
Yeah, they would
That's
need to
correct.
be employed as a social, and it wouldn't have to be in, obviously, we would prefer not to be in our social services
Correct.
department. But they could be a social worker at, hospice or
Right.
one of the other health like Atrium has social workers, so they could, yeah, as long as they're employed
Right.
in the field of social work, yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I think Ms. Thomas is with hospice or Tillery Compassionate Care, name change.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of Ms. Thomas, raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. All right, 7-0, Ms. Thomas. All right, now we have 5 general public. What's the pleasure?
I'd like to
We'll do
nominate,
one at a time, I guess.
I'd like to nominate Kenny Kendall.
Which spot are we voting for?
We're one of the 5
One
general
of the
public.
5 general public.
And one of them now, or who are the people there now?
You've got Sherry Poplin, Georgia Edgerton, Christy Small, Larry Gibson, and Jan Louder.
Jan's not, oh,
Well, but she's in there right now.
okay, yes.
She's one of the 5 that would be either reappointing or replacing. Yeah. And she's asked not to be reappointed, so.
So my question is that since we're doing 5, are we doing, like, we need to say this person's currently sitting in this spot, or?
Andy, what's the term limits on those?
They can serve 2 4-year terms.
Okay, are they anyone in that's sitting there now?
No, there's, my understanding is that there's no one from Tower, correct me if I'm wrong, no one served 2 4-year terms, correct?
Right. I think when the board was first created, they staggered some of the terms, so some of these members were appointed for 2, and then now they're served 4.
Yeah, so some may have served 6, but they haven't served 2 full 4-year terms. Because when you set it up, some people got appointed to 1-year terms, some got appointed to 2-year terms. And then as those changed, you did 4-year terms. I think we actually even had some 3 and 4-year. When we initially set it up, they were all staggered.
So I think I'd like to, by clarification, to say which exact spot the person's sitting in there now for the one you're trying to do.
Okay.
I don't know.
I can help the board go through that if you'd like to. I mean, I
I
can
know,
say.
but what I'm saying is like, are we just nominating 5 or is first come, first serve, or is it like, because I'd like to know if, the person which exact one we're trying to
Yeah, I mean,
replace. I know it's right here,
I
but,
mean, if you want to do general public, this would be general public, and you could say this is the current seat of Jan Louder.
that's, yes.
Okay.
So is that the 1 year?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And he's nominated Kenny Kendall, but the floor is still open for nominations, as I understand it.
Okay, anyone else for, can I just say Jan Louder's position?
Jan Louder's current general public
Jan-
spot.
Okay, for Jan's current position. Jan chose not to run.
Correct. She did not reapply.
Right, okay.
I'd like to nominate Jocelyn Torres.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, all those for Ms. Torres? All right. All those for Mr. Kendall? 6-1. All right, we have 1 seat filled. Now, The next one would be Sherry Poplin.
I'd like to nominate Dr. Mark Spate.
I'd like to nominate Sherry Poplin. She's done a good job on the board. And the current health board has been named the State Health Board of the Year.
Okay, anyone else? All right, all those in favor of Dr. Mark Spate? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, for Ms. Poplin? 1, 2, 3. All right, Dr. Spate. So now we are Georgette Edgerton seat.
I'd like to nominate Sean Morgan, please.
I'd like to nominate Georgette Egerton. She's done a really good job on there also.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of Sean Morgan? 1, 2, 3, 4. And Miss Edgerton? 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you. Now we're Christy Small.
I'd like to nominate Christy Small.
I'd like to nominate Heather Carlson.
All right, anyone else?
I'd like to nominate Victoria Ramos.
Anyone else? We have one more general public left, right? Yeah, we're on Christie, so we got one more.
Yeah, you'll have one more after this one.
All right, everyone for Ms. Ramus? Oh, I'm sorry, we have Christy Small, Heather Carlson, and Victoria Ramus. Am I saying that right, Ramus? Okay. So I'll just go in reverse order. All those for Ms. Ramus. All right, for Ms. Carlson? 2. All right, for Christy Small? 3. Okay, Ms. Small.
Correct.
All right, and our last one is Larry Gibson.
Victoria Ramos.
Nominate Larry Gibson.
I want to nominate Jennifer Lynn.
Lynn, L-I-N-N.
L-E-H-N, maybe?
Anyone else? All right, all for Miss Lynn? 2,
3.
3? Where's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Gibson? 1. And Ms. Ramus? 2, 3. All right, we have a tie. All right. So we need to vote again and take Mr. Gibson out. All right, all those for Miss Lynn? 2, 3. And Ms. Ramus? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ms. Ramus? Did we get through all of them, sir?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, currently, the way I have it is you, Sina Kuistani for the consumer.
Right.
Dr. Link for the veterinarian. Beth Thomas for social worker. General Public 1 was Kenny Kendall.
Right.
General Public 2 was is it Mark Spate? Dr. Mark Spate. General Public 3 was Sean Morgan. General Public 4 was Christy Small. And General Public 5 was Victoria Ramos or Ramos? Ramos.
Okay. All right, thank y'all so much.
That's why I make a comment. It looks like the North Carolina Board of Health of the Year is replacing 6 of the 8 people that were currently on there. Is that correct?
You had 8 up, and it looks like Beth Thomas and Christy Small
Or the only 2?
were 2 of the 8 that were reappointed, correct? Yeah.
Oh, but I'm just
Three
saying,
of
we
them
got new
stepped
members.
down.
It's a whole,
yeah, so, yeah.
A whole new thing.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
I'm trying to catch up here. Go through all these volunteer applications. All right, thank y'all so much. All right, this is all, what we all came for, fiscal year 22-23 audit presentation. Mr. Hill, glad to have you back, sir. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not kidding, I'm glad to have you back. I'm talking what we all came for.
Oh, my.
Did I say that right, Toby?
I'm glad to be here. Always, always. I'm gonna try to see if I can get this up here on the screen here. Let's see.
You'll probably have to log in again.
Okay. You know what?
Look on page, go to page 80. I'm almost there. Once it is, you know, you gotta scroll it.
It's frozen.
Do they all have a?
You just scroll down.
Okay, all right. Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, awesome. It's a pleasure to be here again. I always like to come here because it's an easy one, because the finance officer and the assistant, Mr. Toby Henson and Melissa Eford, and their staff do such a good job. So I appreciate that, and I hope y'all appreciate that as well. So it makes it a whole lot easier for us. So it's going to be a similar presentation as we've done in the past. The letter at the first of the, right here on the screen, right here. This is where we tell you what you did bad and what you did good, and there's, all of it is kind of good, you know, so we don't have to read through that, but it was good as it always is, and you know, that if we had any disagreements or any problems, this is where we would have put it. And so we lay that out, and it's required to, we're required to do a letter like this, and so, but anyway, no worries on the letter. And so as we go on to the data, as we always do, it's on page, the data's on page 4 of the presentation summary. That's where the data comes from. We're not going to read all those either. We do the charts, and y'all are all familiar with those. And so we're going to go right to them. So this first chart at the top is an analysis of your fund balance, and it's a 5-year trend. And you can see here your analysis of your total fund balance is $58,160,781 as of June 30th, 2023. As opposed to $31,145,359 in 2019, and you can see a continuing trend up for that. The red, that's the blue lines, and the unavailable is the red, and that number is 9,161,512 in 2023, and that was 6,924,483 in 2019. And that's kind of went up and down a little bit. The chart at the bottom is the analysis of a fund balance available. So you can see that 63.16% of your total fund balance is available, which means it's not already encumbered. You can see this, the group for the first three years, they have the state average. They have not given us this averages for the last couple of years here. So, but you can see that you're trending, it's trending better than the state as a whole. So your fund balance is good. That's what we're saying. So, on the next page is number 7, which is let me go ahead and get that. Sorry, I should put that up earlier. Okay. So on page 7 is an analysis of your cash balances at the top, and the one lower is the fund balances, and you can see those numbers there. The total cash balances for all funds is $107,499,615. And your total fund balance is $106,170,202 for 2023. And you can see how those are, in which funds those lie. The collection percentages, this is the amount of your tax collections, the percentages that you have collected, and you can see that 98.37% is what your collection percentages are, and again, that's trending a little bit over what the state average, when we had the state average, was. So that's also, good. The analysis for compensated absence is here on, and we're dividing this out of the governmental funds and versus the business type funds, and you can see the amounts, and the 67% is in governmental funds, and the 33% is in business type debt. The breakdown for the general fund revenues, we see that the largest portion of the revenues are in ad valorem taxes. The second largest is local option sales tax, the distributions from the state. And then the third largest is the intergovernmental revenues, which is primarily grants. And the breakdown for the general fund expenditures, we can see here that the public safety is the largest at 30.67%. The second largest is education at 25.07%. And third is 22.09%. And the others are smaller, and you can see those percentages as well. And with that, that's basically what we have got for our presentation. And I'll entertain any questions if you like.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Any questions for Mr. Hill?
Mr. Hill, the state averages, those numbers, are they not releasing those any longer, or what might be the delay?
I have no idea. They haven't sent us to us at this time. I can't,
Where do they come from?
it comes through the LGC primarily, and so I don't know what's going on that, but we're not getting that.
I don't know whose responsibility would be, but I wish somebody would call the LGC and see if they still do that, or,
Right, okay,
at
Well,
least get us some numbers.
okay, yeah. That's a fair game, I think.
Anything else for Mr. Hill? Mr. Hill, thank you so much for coming tonight. We certainly appreciate you.
Thank you for
putting
having me, and,
those things together, and we certainly appreciate Toby and your department for all that you do to keep these numbers rolling in. Certainly appreciate it. And again, you got to go back to Clinton Swearingen too for his collection, for his office for the collection at 98.37%. Thank you, sir.
appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Next item is item number 4. Let's see, we have a economic development incentive grant, and our presenter is Ms. Candace Louder. Ms. Louder.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
do we need to approve the audit?
Yes, typically do, right, Toby? Correct?
Okay. All right, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Got a motion that we accept it as presented.
And I have motion by Commissioner Lawhon and a second by Vice Chairman Barbie. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry about that. Ms. Louder.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Come before you this evening to request you conduct a public hearing and request your support for a property tax-based economic incentive totaling 75% of new taxes paid on new investment for 8 years for a business that is considering relocating its operations to manufacture multifamily residential building components at our Riverstone Industrial Park. The company intends to construct a new manufacturing facility to accommodate its current operations and future expansion. This will result in new taxable investment of approximately $6.7 million. It will relocate the existing 47 employees and will create an additional 11 jobs over the next 5 years. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the project and appreciate your support.
All right, thank you, Ms. Louder. Any questions for Ms. Louder? All right, at this time, we need to hold a public hearing, and I will declare the public hearing open. Anyone here to speak for or against the Economic Development Incentive Grant? For or against? All right, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
I make a motion that we approve the economic incentive equal to 75% of the new tax for 8 years with a minimum investment of $6.7 million, which will result in relocating 47 jobs, existing jobs, and the creation of 11 new jobs.
Thanks, sir. Have a motion? Have a second? Second by Vice Chairman Barbie. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, 7-0. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Don't go far, because I think you're next too.
Yes, sir.
All right, public hearing, item number 5, public hearing, economic development property conveyance. And again, our presenter is Ms. Candace Louder, EDC Director.
Thank you, Chairman. In order to support the project that we just requested the incentive support for, we also request your consideration and approval of a land conveyance of 12.122 acres of property from Stanley County to the company that will manufacture multifamily building components. The property is located within our Riverstone Industrial Park in Stanfield. It has a recent appraised value of approximately $60,117 an acre for a total value of $728,738.27. The company would like to purchase the land from the county to support their project that we just discussed for the incentive. Happy to answer any questions you might have about the project or the land conveyance.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any questions for Ms. Louder?
I have one, purchase of the property, if something, you know, God forbid, goes bad, we have first right to get the property back, is that correct?
Yes, sir, we've discussed building a right of first refusal into the land conveyance, and that will follow the transaction up until the building is constructed, because, you know, when we purchased the property, our goal was to create new investment and create jobs. So once that's fulfilled, the board, and with counsel from the county manager and our attorney, said that they will have met their obligations at that point, once the investment and jobs are created.
Thank you.
Any more questions? All right, at this time, we need to hold a public hearing. I will declare the public hearing open. Anyone here to speak for or against the Economic Development Incentive Grant? I'm sorry, wait a minute, let me back up. The Economic Development Property Conveyance.
Who is the company and how are you going to handle the traffic?
We can't say who the company is at this time because they hadn't made the formal announcement. The traffic would be on a NCDOT road in there at Riverstone. There's a stoplight there at Highway 2427 Browns Hill. I'm sorry? I think most of that traffic will be going out Browns Hill to the light. Any more questions? All right, anyone else here to speak for or against? All right, this time I'll declare the public hearing closed. All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the conveyance of the county's interest in 12.122 acres of real property at the Riverstone Industrial Park for a one-time monetary payment equivalent to the appraised value of $728,738.27.
Thank you, Mr. King. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Commissioner Lawhon, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item is CR 23-02. Tony Malden, a conditional zoning of 39117 Northeast Connector. And our presenter is Ms. Bailey Klein. Ms. Klein. Glad to have you.
Yes. Good evening. Thank y'all for having me. Let me get to this slideshow really quickly. Okay. Okay, the first item that I have for you all tonight is CR 2302. This is a request by Tony Malden. He has requested to rezone approximately 0.55 acres of a parcel located at 39117 Northeast Connector, Albemarle 28001. It's currently zoned RA and R20, and he's proposing to rezone it to a conditional zoning district for the purpose of operating a produce stand on the property. This includes the current produce stand area and no other portions of the property. This request for conditional zoning would limit the use of the property to produce stand and market. A list of the proposed conditions is attached, and these conditions may be amended and further conditions may be added by you all, as long as Mr. Malden is in agreement. Mr. Malden was issued a rural home occupation permit and has been operating the current produce stand for several years. He has indicated that he hopes to continue operation of this facility, but would like the flexibility to lease or sell the parcel and for the current use to continue. All current structures were built to commercial code to meet requirements of the Stanley County Building Inspections Department. I'm going to go ahead and move on to this next slide. This is the list of proposed conditions for the property. This parcel is located in a growth area per the Stanley County Land Use Plan. Adjoining parcels are zoned County RA and R20. Public water is located nearby. There is no public sewer service in this area. The average traffic count on the Northeast Connector is 8,300 vehicles per day as 2021 survey by DOT. Areas at each end of the Northeast Connector are zoned for commercial uses by the City of Albemarle. Properties along the Northeast Connector are zoned for residential uses, either by Stanley County or the City of Albemarle. Participants in the land use plan meetings identified this area as potentially high-density residential, and the future land use was identified as single-family neighborhood. Planning board members unanimously voted to recommend approval of the rezoning request based on the limited use of the property and conditions proposed at their meeting on October 10th of 2023. So I'll just run through these list of proposed conditions. So all structures must comply with commercial building code. Road sign cannot exceed 32 square feet and may not be lighted. Hours of operation shall be no earlier than 7 a.m. and no later than 7 p.m. Paint colors or structures shall be neutral in order to blend with the plants and trees in the area. Only one access from the northeast connector is permitted and must meet the guidelines required by NCDOT. All building codes for accessibility, including parking, shall be met. Parking shall be provided on an improved surface, which is asphalt or compacted aggregate. Up to 4 temporary signs advertising seasonal produce may be placed near the entrance during operating hours. No sign shall be placed in such a manner to block the sight distance for ingress and egress. All buildings shall be set back from the property lines as follows: 50 feet from the front of the right-of-way of the northeast connector, 20 feet on the side, and 20 feet on the rear. A vegetative or fence buffer shall be in place on the side and rear yards unless the requirements are waived by the adjoining property owners. The produce stand shall only sell fruit and vegetables, flour, poultry, or meat, eggs, and products made from these items, which meets the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services guidelines, and prices for all products should be clearly posted or labeled. This is the property in question. As you can see, I think it's about a 9-acre parcel as a whole. This next side, I believe, but it's currently zoned. Part of where the section is that he is proposing, obviously, is zoned R20 and RA. And let's see, I think, okay. And this is where it shows that it's located in a primary growth area. That's darker, deep red. Obviously, where it says Malden is the property as a whole in question. Obviously, he's only wanting to rezone a .55 portion of it. So this just shows that it is located in a growth area per the land use plan. This is the, it's kind of blurry, I believe, on the screen, but this is the proposed survey for the property. It just shows the section of the property. He does live on the parcel. Currently, hasn't been subdivided, but he currently does live there. And it just shows that that .55 section is what he's proposing, where that building's at. And that kind of wraps it up, I do believe. He did come before the planning board initially for a larger portion to be rezoned, but the planning board didn't favor that. And so he came back with a conditional rezoning district of the .55 in order for the produce stand to sell, or to potentially sell the produce stand if it comes to that point. It currently is operated under what's called a rural home occupation permit. We allow those for, businesses such as this, or potentially like a woodworking shop or those types of places for people to do an at-home business from. But where this kind of became an issue for him is that you essentially have to live on the same parcel or potentially on the parcel next door, and he potentially would not own it if he were to sell it. And so that rural home occupation permit would kind of just die. And so he's just asking for it to be rezoned conditionally. And that conditional district would allow for him only to have the fruit stand. It wouldn't allow for any other commercial use on that parcel.
Okay, thank you, Bailey. Any questions for Bailey?
Mr. Baldwin was content with the conditional zoning request instead of commercial?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, just for information only, Bailey, you make sure that I'm correct, but this conditional zoning goes with that property, so he cannot close that. He can close that produce stand, but he couldn't build anything else on that property without
Correct.
coming back for an additional conditional rezoning.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any more questions?
If it was in a growth area, what was the conflict with making it, with the zoning board wanting to zone it commercial, not wanting to?
Sure. So initially he came with a proposed plan that I believe it was a little over 6 acres that he wanted to rezone, just a traditional rezoning to highway business, I believe. And because of the unknown of what potentially could go on the property, they didn't feel as comfortable with rezoning that large of a portion of property and not really knowing of the proposed plans to go there. And so since he really just wanted the fruit stand to be the main thing of his main focus, he came back and said, okay, I'll just do a conditional rezoning. That way conditions are put on the property and just for the produce stand for now.
Any other questions? I think I have to have a public hearing for this one also, yep. All right, thank you, Bailey.
You're welcome.
All right, at this time, I'll open the public hearing for CR 23-02, a conditional zoning for 39117 Northeast Connector. Anyone here to speak for or against the conditional rezoning or conditional zoning? For or against? I thought Jeannie was going to her talk. All right. All right. This time I'll close the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Vice Chairman.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the CR 23-02 conditioning zoning at 39117 Northeast Connector to a conditional zoning district to allow operation of fruit stand.
All right. Thanks, sir. Second? I'm sorry, I didn't catch the second. Brandon, okay. Thank you, Mr. King. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Bailey. This time we have a ZA 2310, text amendment zoning definition of substantial expenditures. And again, our presenter is Ms. Bailey Klein.
Okay. As I said before, thank you for having me. This is a fun one. So, this is ZA 23-10. This is a text amendment for section 13.2 of the zoning ordinance and section 66-5 of the subdivision ordinance in order to add the definition of a substantial expenditure. At the request of county administration, the planning board has reviewed potential language to help clarify what is considered a substantial expenditure. This is important in the establishment of common law vested rights for any building or development activity. Per NC General Statute 160D-108, once a development project has substantially commenced, then the builder/developer has established a common law vested right to complete the project under the land use ordinances that were in place when the application for the project was accepted by the planning department. The general statute does not further define what constitutes substantially commenced or a substantial expenditure. Case law regarding this issue has determined that time, labor, energy, money, and actual construction costs should be considered in determining whether the project has had substantial expenditure. After much discussion, the planning board recommends a definition be added to both the zoning ordinance and the subdivision ordinance, which establishes that 10% or more of the total estimated cost of the permitted project is sufficient to establish substantial expenditure has occurred, and therefore a common law vested right has been established. This will provide a guideline for the planning director to make a determination once he or she has reviewed the record of expenditures submitted concerning the project. His or her determination will indicate whether a development project has therefore substantially commenced. As with any land use determination, it is subject to appeal by those withstanding to the Board of Adjustment. Much of the language for this definition is from the description of substantial expenditure as found in the land use law book from the North Carolina School of Government, page 337. The planning board unanimously recommended that the Board of Commissioners approve the addition of this definition to both the zoning ordinance and the subdivision ordinance at their meeting on October 10th of 2023. So on the screen is, as of now, what has been brought before you of what a substantial expenditure is defined as, which it says a common law vested right is established if this is a substantial beginning, of construction in which the owner/developer would suffer undue losses if required to comply with any new requirement created after an application for property improvement has been accepted. Undue losses shall be 10% or more of the estimated expenditure for the project. Expenditures of time, labor, and materials, as well as expenditures of money or actual construction, may be considered in establishing a common law vested right. This, I believe, is the only slide. Yeah. This kind of came up just in the past couple of months because we had developments come in that kind of had met that 2-year mark of a vested right. And so, we had no definition of what work was, essentially, what work has been done. And so essentially Bob let them come back before the planning board and chose that to be the better option, just because we had no true definition of what work was. Was it the grading? Was it, the engineering, et cetera? And so that kind of became a topic of discussion, and we felt like, bringing substantial expenditures before the planning board and just getting that nailed down would kind of help level the playing field. So they chose to put 10% or more of the cost of the project essentially as a substantial expenditure. So essentially, if a developer were to come in with an application and new laws were to be put in place after that application was submitted, if 10% or more of the project had been completed, then that is a substantial expenditure, and those old laws still apply to that project. And essentially, that's what that is for. Now, if for some reason they only have 5% of the total cost of the project done, or 2%, or 9%, whatever, is below 10, then that would require for them to go back before the planning board and to get their approval, as it is written right now. And so essentially, that's kind of where that came from, and it is a lot as far as, what is work, but that's really all that I have, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Bailey?
Yes, I've got one. I think we should nail down a little bit more about what the actual cost would be considered as, if it's construction or whatever. And I also would like to see that 10% go to a third, 33 1/3%
Sure.
or more. And I would like to, if the other commissioners will agree with me on this, to send this back to the Planning and Zoning Board and get them to look at it again for us.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, before we do that, Vice Chairman, I need to hold a public hearing. That way we don't have to advertise it and do it again.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Bailey, I know this is, when somebody comes in with a subdivision, and I guess that's what this is referring to.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
How long do they have to start the work and complete the work?
Right now, that is where that 2-year time period comes in. They have vested rights for 2 years. And so if they obviously start work, pull permits within those 2 years, then it obviously still stands good. But if they get to that 2-year mark and no work essentially has been done on the property, is when it has to go back before the planning board. Whether or not any changes have been made to the plan, it still has to go back before the planning board for their reapproval essentially.
Okay, let's say somebody has a project,
Mhm.
and it's been 2 years, and you call them in for the 10%, and it's verified. How much longer do they have to complete the project?
I actually asked that question today, and there really is no time frame because it runs with the land. And so that's kind of the answer that I was given. And so that 10%, if it runs with the land, then there is no time frame.
So it could sit there for 20 years.
Correct. And then, Bob would have to make a determination if that 10% has been met, and if, those withstanding have a problem or, a justification as to why it would be a problem, then it can go before the planning board for appeal.
I'm with Vice Chairman Barbie. I think it needs to go back, and
Sure.
we need to ask the board to
Sure.
put some time
Time frame?
frame.
Okay. I will make note.
County Manager Lucas?
You can hold the public hearing, but if they make changes to it, you're gonna have another public hearing anyways, because it's gonna be substantially different than what you had this time. So you're likely to have another public hearing if this comes back before you, because it will look different than what they advertised this time.
20% would be a substantial.
Yeah, I'm looking at Jenny, but I would think she would agree with me that that would be a substantial change.
Okay, all right.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there some projects right now that are under consideration with this new verbiage here?
No, ma'am, not currently. To my knowledge, there aren't any. We had 2 this past year that this question did come up, and they did have to go back before the planning board. And there were concerns raised by the community. And so we kind of went back to the drawing board, and this is when this came into effect. But as of now, no, there are none that, to my knowledge, that are in question for for this.
Okay, I think I remember there was a project that a woman had said that COVID had slowed her down substantially to
Yeah.
get her works. And this is one of those that kind of pushed this into,
Yes, ma'am. She,
Okay.
the one on, I believe it was Ridgecrest Road. I could be wrong, but Bonnie Droz had a subdivision that she did, and it was approved back in 2019. But because of COVID, she wasn't able to get everything done. She had paid, some odd thousands of dollars for engineering, but just because of the time the world was in, she had no way to get out there and get work done. And so she had to bring that back before the planning board because of that time frame restriction.
I understand. I'm with Commissioners Lawhon and Barbie, though.
Okay, any more questions? So I think the motion on the floor would be to send it back to planning and zoning for 33 1/3% of expenditures and the 2-year.
A time
Another-
frame.
Extension would be a year or two,
Okay.
and also, a more defined situations of what actually has been spent. Instead of, that's awful vague, I thought, you could do anything the way it was, but like I said. that's
Sure.
how I looked at it.
Sure.
Okay. Have a-
Motion then, do I have a second? Second, Commissioner Hatley. Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item is ZA 23-11, text amendment section 405 zoning, number of dwellings. And again, our presenter is Ms. Bailey.
Okay, for the last time, thank you for having me. Okay, so let me get my paper. This last amendment that I have before you is ZA 2311. This is a text amendment to section 405 of the zoning ordinance to limit multiple homes on a single lot. At the request of county administration, the planning board has proposed updating the language in the zoning ordinance regarding multiple homes on a single lot. The current language allows for up to 2 homes, 1 site built and 1 manufactured, or 2 manufactured on a parcel that is greater than 2 acres or more, in the RA zoning district. The proposed revised language would allow up to 2 homes, 1 site built and 1 manufactured home on a parcel of 3 acres or larger. It would no longer allow 2 manufactured homes on the same parcel. Existing lots with 2 manufactured homes or multiple homes on 2 acres or less would be grandfathered. Homes on the grandfathered lot could be replaced if permits are applied for within 180 days of the former home's demolition or removal. Under both the current language and the proposed language, property owners are required to subdivide their lot to have 2 site-built homes. Modular homes are considered to be the same as site-built homes for zoning purposes since they are built to NC Building Code standards. Manufactured homes are only allowed in the RA, which is Residential Agricultural Zoning District, and in existing manufactured home parks. So this does not apply to other zoning districts that are in the county's jurisdiction. Early versions of the Stanley County zoning ordinance, which is prior to 2000, allowed up to 3 single-family homes on a parcel. A few of these 3 home lots remain in the county. Other area counties only allow 1 single-family home per parcel, and some do allow 2 single-family homes. The planning board considered whether to recommend requiring 1 lot per single-family home or whether to allow a site-built or modular and a manufactured home on a parcel of 3 acres or larger. There was easy consensus that having 2 manufactured homes on a 3-acre parcel was not desirable. The board concluded that it was acceptable to have 1 site-built and 1 manufactured home on a parcel of 3 acres or larger in the RA zoning district. This does not affect the ordinance language, which currently allows for accessory dwelling units, also known as mother-in-law suites. The planning board unanimously recommended that the Board of Commissioners approve this text amendment to the zoning ordinance at their meeting on October 10th of 2023. Okay, so the screen before you is kind of just a rundown of what I just stated as far as what's currently allowed and what they are proposing. So this is the language that they have proposed, the highlighted versions. So as you can see down on section 405.3, it says single-family structures shall be limited to no more than 2 total dwelling units where no more than 1 site-built structure and 1 manufactured home is permitted on any single lot of record. And then down in subsection A, it says the total lot area shall equal no less than 1.5 acres per dwelling unit, which obviously is required since you can only have 3 acres or more, is what they've proposed to have both of these dwelling units. And then in subsection B, there was some language about the, I'll just read it. It says each residential site must abut a publicly dedicated right-of-way or be located so that a recorded 50-foot right-of-way or easement giving access to a publicly dedicated right-of-way is provided. That is marked out because it was not compliant with another section that's in our ordinance, which I'll move to the next slide. To show you where it says that. Oh, no, that's the same thing essentially. Oh, okay, maybe I was wrong. Anyways, section, I think it's 403 of the zoning ordinance basically is the access requirements for homes and the density, access, and area, essentially the section that talks about access easements and what's required for those. And it wasn't compliant with that section. And we kind of ran across that at this time whenever we were going back and looking at this. So that 50-foot easement was marked through because as of now, we require that if you have an easement that's less than 500 feet long, it can be a 20-foot wide easement. But if it's over 500 feet long, it can be 30 feet wide. And so essentially, right now, the way that it's worded is 2 acres or more, you can have 2 mobile homes. You can have a mobile home and a site-built home, or you can have a modular home and a mobile home. This language would essentially no longer allow for more than 1 mobile home to be on a lot that is 3 acres or more. So essentially they added an acre to this requirement and made it to where you can no longer do 2 mobile homes on the same lot. As it said in that previous slide, we do allow for accessory dwelling units, or mother-in-law suites is what many people call them. The main thing with those is that the square footage requirement, they can only be 800 square feet or half the heated square footage of the main home, whichever is less. So essentially, if you have a 1,200 square foot house, it can only be 600 square feet. So that is one thing that people are able to do. I will say that I do get this question somewhat often. As far as, 2 mobile homes on the same lot. But I think where some of the concern may lies when you get those lots that are, you have 5 2-acre lots all beside each other, and then they all have, 2 mobile homes per lot, which I have seen done recently. And so I think that's where some of that concern came from. But I think that's all that I have for you as of now, as far as this goes.
So Bailey, if I understand, I'm sorry, Trent.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So your easement, 50 feet, 30 feet, 20 feet, where are we at with easement?
Sure. And so as far as easements are concerned, what we require right now is that if you have an easement that is 500 feet or longer, it has to be 30 feet wide. If it's less than 500 feet, it can be 20 feet wide. And that's where we are now, and that's what we've been requiring as far.
So that stays the same?
Yeah, so that's not changing. That stays the same as of now. Potentially could change. If there's potential that it will change, depending on conversations with the fire marshal and emergency services, just some conflict between what we require and what they require, just to get us on the same page. But as of currently, that's still our requirement.
What would be the easement with the fire departments?
I'm not 100% sure what their requirement is. I think it's 8, I could be wrong, but from what I remember, it was 18 feet wide.
Is it 20, Jenny? 20 feet of, and this is.
I thought it was 22.
But it's, and I don't have it in front of me. Here's what's happening is there's a fire code is more rigorous than our planning and zoning ordinance. And so we're wanting to try to marry those two up. And so Central Lina, since you all went through with the process of doing the larger lots and there wasn't as much for them to do, one of the things we asked them to do, because we knew this was an issue, is take a look at this issue between the fire code and ingress and egress and easements and what they require versus what we're requiring in our zoning ordinance. And so that's happening currently, and they'll be bringing something back. But, you know, that's, from what I understand, and I don't have it in front of me, and I'm not an expert in this, there's really, Michael Rourke really needs to speak to you about this, and I'd be more than happy to have him come to the next meeting if you're into your work session, if you'd like more information about it. But from what I understand, and there's a lot of factors as to whether or not, how wide it has to be. Let me just say this, I would prefer Michael Rourke addressing it. I just don't feel like I have the knowledge of the fire code. I'm not a fire code official, I'm not certified I would prefer if you have questions about the fire code, that I'd have Michael Rourke come to a future work session.
Well, I think whatever that fire code is, our ordinance needs to match up to it. I mean, if you got a 300-foot easement and it's 20 foot wide or 22 foot wide, you're driving that fire truck up in there, but you gotta get that thing back. And if there's no way to turn it around,
Keep in mind, an easement is just, that doesn't necessarily mean it's paved.
no,
or-
no, I get it.
It's, and the fire code speaks to some of that, not necessarily being paved, but being all-weather access, and so an easement's just an easement, and whether that's, you know, that doesn't define what the width of the driving area is.
The 20 feet is a 80,000 pound compacted surface, or hold, I think, roughly that.
Again,
Not
I would
a-
prefer
not the
Michael
easement.
Rourke really-
Probably need to
If you
have-
have questions about it, I'd be more than happy to have Michael Rourke come to a future work session and talk to you about the fire code. That's something, if that's what this board would like, I'll be more than happy to.
I think if they figure it out, and
Well, it's currently happening.
Yeah.
Michael's work, they're taking Michael's work and taking our planning and zoning, and they're trying to marry them up so that there's not a conflict between them. So when folks come in, and they say, well, it passed through zoning, and then the fire marshal goes out and says, wait, no, it's not wide enough. We don't get into those, well, I've already, the house is already there, and people are saying, no, it's an undue hardship financially for me to widen my driveway, because they've added another house, and, you know, they've split up a part of their parcel, and now it's serving 3 houses instead of 2 houses, and it just, there's a lot of complicating factors there, and again, I think if you all are interested in it, it's gonna come before you at some point in the future now anyways, but if you're interested in it before that, I'd be more than happy to have Michael come speak.
I think
I'd
I'd
like-
like married it up, I'm okay.
yeah, I would like to hear what they figure out.
Well, that's gonna come before you, but if you wanna hear it, if you want information from Michael before this plan comes before you, I'll be more than happy to have that.
I would like that.
Bailey, one thing I did make sure I understand, you said that the maximum, square footage of an accessory dwelling is 800 square feet?
Yes, so right now it's 800 square feet or half the heated square footage of the main home, whichever one is less. So
If
whichever
you
of
got
the
a
two.
3,000 ranch,
Yeah.
800 square feet,
Yeah,
okay.
as of
I
now.
want to make sure I understand, yeah, okay.
I like the 3 acre part.
Sure.
I don't know if I'm sold on any kind of modular or manufactured housing on the same track,
Sure.
because we have just tried to do away with that with the 3 acre residential stuff. I would like to, if possible, have that go back to the planning and zoning board, and maybe, you know, say not do completely away with it, but if it was absolute necessary or hardship for someone to have a manufactured home on a lot, then we could get a variance maybe for that, but.
And we do have a, I can't recall the section number that it's in, but we do have a hardship section. So that may be something to consider, and
Yeah,
I can
I'd like
talk
for
with
'em to look
Bob
at that.
about that.
I just don't like the idea of just cut and dry a manufactured home along with a stick built, so,
Sure. Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that in the form of a motion, sir?
Yes, I'm sorry, that's the form of a motion.
I don't have to do a public hearing on this one then, too.
Yeah, I mean, you could, but it's gonna be kind of a
Okay.
moot point, because you're sending it back, and it's gonna be
Okay.
substantially different.
Okay. All right, I have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Second. Commissioner Hatley, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Bailey, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank y'all. Oh, did you need that? No. Oh, sorry.
All right, next item is ABC Board appointments, and the presenter is Andy Lucas, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. James McSwain, who serves as the county commissioner appointment to the ABC board, has a term expiring December 31st. And the town has asked us to, he's no longer eligible because of his location. He's moved. So their general managers requested a replacement for Mr. McSwain for a 3-year term effective January 1, 2024 through December 31st of 2026. Currently, there are no applications in our pool of applications for this board. So we wanted to bring this forward so that you potentially could consider someone at it and maybe drum up some potential applicants over the next couple weeks. Obviously, you have some time. You have the November 20th meeting and the December 4th meeting before the end of the term. So
I would yield to the Norwood
unless
folks.
you have somebody in mind this
Because
evening.
I don't know anybody that.
It's in my district, and matter of fact, I was reading the information this afternoon, and I talked with an individual who said, let him think about it, whether or not to submit his name, but they're supposed to be of good reputation, and I said, we'll stretch a little bit on that one. But he does live in Norwood, and there's some others in Norwood that I'm gonna approach and see if we can get a couple apps.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, I think they do, yeah.
Yeah, typically it's been somebody who's lived in that general area, but I don't think they specifically have to be a member, a live-in Locust, or Norwood.
I don't think you want somebody from Locust driving all the way to Norwood.
And Locust has its own ABC
Yeah.
board.
Why do we do this one for just Norwood? We do them for anybody else. Which Albemarle and Locust, there's only two that have ABC
I'm not
stores.
100%, and, you know, Norwood was your first.
Okay.
And my guess is there's some historical piece to that, because I think there was a lot of folks who drove down to that part of the county,
Oh, I'm sure they were.
when it became the first.
I'm sure they were, back in the day. Okay. All right, thanks, sir.
Well, I need to share this. This one said, well, I'm a Baptist. And I said, that's all right. You can go in there and nobody will speak to you.
That one, but thank you, sir. All right, next item is item number 10, the consent agenda. Got a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the
Judo.
consent agenda.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Hatley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Our last item is board comments, announcements, and committee reports, and I will start with Commissioner King. All right, Commissioner King. Commissioner Shudo.
Yeah, I just want to personally thank those that served on the Combined Board of Health DSS Board. They've done, I think, a fantastic job. We have not always listened to them when we don't have to listen to the boards, but I think we've not really listened to them from time to time, because tonight, you know, they had a recommendation that 5 of them be reappointed, and they were going to have 3 new people, so it was going to be at least, for continuity, 5 repeating board members who were part of the North Carolina Health Board of the Year, and now it's going to be 6 new ones, and I appreciate the ones, and I thank those ones that are coming on. I wish them the best of luck with 2 coming on. So I just want to thank, first I want to thank Jan Louder, Dr. Amy Jordan, Kenneth Chambers, Sherry Poplin, Georgette Edgerton, and she's been wonderful on there. Christy Small, Larry Gibson, Beth Thomas, and just want to thank them for their serving. I know that Beth is coming back, and so is Christy Small.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Crump.
I just want to say that since we last met, we were all invited to Charlotte Pipe's grand opening, and that was quite an event to attend. It was an honor to be there, and if you haven't seen it, you should. You just need to go and see that it is. It's huge. It's wonderful. It's great that we have this industry here in Stanley County, and I just appreciate that afternoon. We were all given protective equipment and walked through the building and got to have a. Appreciate that, Peter. We had a great tour of the building, and I would just recommend it to other people. So that's all I want to say about that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hatley. Commissioner Lawhon.
I want to share new home permits with everyone. For the month of October, there were 36 new home permits issued, which is a decrease of 17 or 32% from the same month last year. Year to date, though, we've had 524 new home permits, which is a decrease of 63 over the previous year, which is an 11% decrease. I'm curious to see if the month of November, December continues to show a lot more of a decline like the month of October. Interest rates are most time are above 7%. Back when I bought my first house, I paid 12%. So if you're young out there and you think 7% is bad, 12%, I thought I was getting a bargain at the time. So hopefully construction will continue, but did show a pretty dramatic decline in the month of October. I bought my first house for $29,900.
I bet you.
It was about a 1,250 square foot, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. You can't even buy a car for that now.
Thank you, sir. Vice Chairman Barbie.
I don't have anything to add, but I do appreciate the Planning and Zoning Board's work and everything they do with the department, so I appreciate it.
Thanks, sir. I attended an event today put on by West Stanley at the Junior ROTC. It was just a celebration of veterans, and Commissioner Lawhon, they was asking why you wasn't there, and I told him at 9 o'clock he don't usually get up unless he's got a golf club in his hand. But man, it was a great event, and you sort of get choked up. I mean, we didn't sign up for the military for that, but it was just the young kids today, how they celebrate. You just walk down the halls and they were on both sides lining up. I know there's an event Thursday at Albemarle and one at South Stanley also. North Stanley's got one too, yep. So anyway, if you're a veteran out there, thank you so much for your service. We certainly appreciate it. There's the Oakboro, the Veteran Parade is in Oakboro. It will be Saturday at 11 o'clock, 11. So if you get a chance, please go out and support those folks. They would certainly appreciate it. Our next meeting is November 20th. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. Second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank y'all.